Having an easy to access database is important for a developer, but installing a database locally is a mistake. Databases are designed to be installed on dedicated servers. They take up a lot of resources and become harder to maintain as you install more and as you try to keep them up to date. Instead, I recommend you utilize a Docker container for any database you want. In this video, we're going to install, configure, and use a Microsoft SQL Server in just a few minutes using one command. This will be one of the database types we use in future videos. Now, this video is part of a series dedicated to developing C# applications on Linux. Along the way, we'll get a better knowledge of how Linux works and how to make our apps truly cross-platform. If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel to stay informed of new episodes as they come out. And if you're looking for even more .NET, SQL, and AI training, go to imtimcorey.com. All right, now the first thing we need to do is we need to look at our Docker containers, because I didn't do one thing that is going to cause a problem for us, and that is I did not set our container to restart. So if we come here and look for Docker ps-a, means give me all the containers, not just the ones that are running. We see that we have Portainer here, but it's exited 12 days ago, actually, since the last time you used it. It's not currently running, which for most containers, that's what you want. You want it to be shut down and only start it when you want it. And that's what I'm going to encourage you to do with SQL. But we want Portainer to be running all the time, because that's what manages in a GUI manner our Docker containers, and we don't have to come to the command line and run all these commands and memorize these commands. So what we're going to do is, actually, let's not clear this. We're going to do Docker update -- restart space unless - stopped Portainer. And that's the name of our container. All right, so now that's updated our Portainer container, and now we can say Docker start Portainer. All right, and now if we do a Docker ps no -a, we can see that Portainer is up for the past 3 seconds. So let's close this out, and we can come over to Edge, and we can say localhost :9000, and we now have Portainer, and we have our password. There we go. I remembered it. And in our local, we have one container, and that's just Portainer. So that's what we've got. Now, what we could do is we could go look for a container for Linux, for SQL. But I'm not going to do that, because I already know one. Actually, I have the total, like, not really a link, but it's the command for setting up a SQL Server. So what I'm going to do is actually open up local send. This is why I actually have it set up this way. And I do this first because I have a thing I want to send, which is, let's go right here. There is our message. I'm going to hit copy here. So actually, let's open up text editor and just paste this in so you can see it. This came from my Windows machine, which is why you're seeing it here. Let's make this a little bigger, and I will make this full screen so you can see the full command. So it says Docker run, and then we have a variable that says accept EULA equals yes. So it's accepting the end user license agreement. We have another variable or environment variable called SA password. This is the system administrator password. We're going to set this. And the password is test12345. Yes, your password is now in clear text, and that's not a problem. The reason why is because this is for local SQL Server. This is not for doing anything really secure. This is just for doing local development. So this is totally fine. Now, if you're going to do something like secure, well, then don't do it this way. You can do it another way, but this is just fine. We're going to map the port 1433 internally to 1433 on our machine, and the name is going to be SQL 2025 or SQL 2025, and then the image is going to come from mcr.microsoft.com/mssql/server:2025-latest. That's the tag for our image we're going to run. Now, if you ever want to look at Microsoft's images, and they have a lot of them that you can play around with, just go to mcr.microsoft.com. You can even go there and say, hey, let me see all the database images and see just the database images. So this is our command we're going to run. I'm going to copy that. I had the clipboard already. Let's close without saving. And we're going to come to our command line. So yes, we're going to use the command line, even though we could do it in the front end. We can close down local send now. So hit paste. That's the command we're going to run. We're going to hit enter. It's going to pull down the latest images and extract them, or parts of the image. And then it's going to create for us our SQL Server environment. Now remember that password, test12345, because that's the password we're going to use for actually logging into our SQL Server. But we're done. We've now installed SQL Server. It's up and running right now. Now, let's look real quick at Portainer. So there we go, SQL Server. It's up and running. There's our image. We could dive into it and see more information about this. Now, right now, I have not set up any kind of data saving, which I don't want. I want it to, if I were to delete this container, I want the data to go away as well. I'm not going to delete the container probably for a very long time because I'll use it for testing. If you ever did need to delete the container, but you wanted to save the databases, you could export them out if you wanted to, but I really don't like that. I like to keep it totally inside a container. That way, if I do blow it away and start over, I'm starting a fresh slate. Okay, so SQL Server is done. We're installed. And that could be the end of the video if you want, but we're going to go into Visual Studio and actually manage this. So let's close out of all the fun stuff that opens up. And in fact, we have no folder. That's totally fine. What we're going to do is we're going to come down here to extensions, and we're going to, it's not going to recommend it. We're just going to search for SQL Server. We have SQL Server here from Microsoft.com. And this is for managing SQL Server. So once this is done, it will pop up a new window here. We can close out of this. We can close out of this. We can close out of what's new. Don't really care. And we could go through this dialog here, or we can just come down here to SQL Server and say add a connection. So connection profile name, let's just call this our Docker SQL is fine. We're going to say parameters, and then we're going to say server name is dot. Dot means this machine, localhost. So you could also say 127.0.0.1, or you could say that you want it to be just localhost, the actual name. And if you want, you can specify the port name as well, or the port number as well. But since we're using the port 1433, which is standard, we don't have to specify the port number. Yes, I'm going to trust a certificate. Username is SA. Password is that test 12345. So there we go. There's our password. Yes, to say the password. Again, this is a local testing database. The database name, I'll put master in here for now. This is the default database name. It doesn't really matter as much. Hit connect. We're connected to our Docker SQL. And yes, it knows it's in Docker, so it gives us this little Docker icon. So under databases, you'll see we have our system databases, which one of those is master. We have model, MSDB, and tempDB as well. But in databases, not in system databases, we're going to say add. And let's give this, let's call those people. It's just a simple demo we're going to create. We now have a database. In here we have tables. Let's go ahead and create a new table. Takes a minute to kind of spool up everything and get it ready. But what we'll have here is a designer. We could go through and just create a new query and do it that way. But I don't always remember all the syntax for creating tables. Like, this is more syntax I want to remember. So I just do it this way. So I probably should call this people database. In fact, let me see if I can rename database. Hey, look at that, preview. People DB. Enter. Wow, look at that. I will close that just in case it caused a problem. So we're going to create in the people DB a table called people, which, sure. This is definitely a demo. So I'm going to say create 2 new columns. Let's call this first one first name and the second one last name. Notice down here, it's also modifying the text. That means you can modify it either place. So if you want to just type things out, it might be faster to do it that way. Then you could do it that way. If I took off null here. Oh, no, this is read only. Interesting. It's not read only in Visual Studio, but this is a newer thing in VS Code. But you can come up down here and say, I want nvarchar. 50 is fine for our demo. I might go more than that for real world. I would definitely say don't allow nulls for at least last name, but let's do both. It's fine. So let's apply changes. And it's going to say, yes, are you sure you want to apply changes? Schema changes are a big deal for a database. But yes, I want to publish these changes to my database because it could be a production database, right? It could be an actual real database, but it's not for us. It's just a demo. Okay, so new query. And I like to put a few lines in here. I'm going to say insert into dbo.people, first name, last name. And this is what I do prefer to type out. Values. Let's go with Tim, Corey. We'll say comma, Sue, Storm, and then comma, one more. Let's go with Dave, Corey. Then we can have a way to kind of filter it out. Okay, so now up here there's the green arrow here, which Control-Shift-E, don't love that shortcut, but whatever. We've now executed this query. So if we were to come back here, let's get rid of this query and say select star from dbo.people, like so. Then run this, we'll see Tim, Sue, and Dave in our table with IDs number 1, 2, and 3. So I can even say where last name equals Corey, like so. And now it's just Tim and Dave because Sue doesn't have a last name of Corey. So we have now, in just a few minutes, we have used local send to get us our information from our Windows machine over to our Windows clipboard, over to our Linux machine. We've run that command. We have that stood up an entire SQL Server, which then we came over to Visual Studio, add the plugin in, create a database, create a table, put data into it, read the data out, and even query the data with filters. So that's an awful lot for an awful little bit of time. That's why I love using Docker containers, because we were up and running in just a few minutes. And when I am done, let's just say, don't save. We can close this out. And I can say, you know what? I don't want to have SQL Server running anymore. I just hit stop. That's it. And now all the resources that SQL Server was taking up are gone. They're not taken up anymore. Now, if I just hit stop, it's still taking up file resources. It's still taking up files on the disk, but that's not usually a big deal in most people's case. Now, if you have a limited amount of file storage, then yeah, that could be a problem, except for the fact that it's not getting any better if you install SQL Server. In fact, it's probably worse. And so this also means that right now I'm using SQL 2025, but what if my client was using SQL 2022? Well, I could run that same command, only change 2025 to 2022, and have SQL Server installed as 2022 version very, very quickly. In fact, let's just do that real quick. I'm going to stop. It's stopping the container. That's fine. Let's come back to our text editor and paste that back in. And let's zoom in here a bit more. We'll keep the same everything else except for the port number, which, and here's where I draw a blank on if it's the first one or the last one. I believe it is, I think it's this one. So let's just go with This is my port, and that's the internal port. I believe that's right. So we'll do 2022 and 2022. I know that this works because I know that that container exists. If you go to mcr.microsoft.com, you can look at all of them. So if I were to run this command, let's just paste this in here, run it. That's going to download the 2022 version and launch it with all of my settings. So it's just a matter of downloading it and it will start running. So it's extracting, done, done. And all of a sudden now, if you come back here to containers, I now have the 2022 version of SQL running. And I also can start this. I can come up here and hit start. And now I have two versions of SQL Server running at the same time on my machine. So really easy to get started, really easy to get going. And let's just come over here and look at that mcr.microsoft.com. Because it is valuable to know. I'm going to copy this, come back over here. I will paste this in. In here, we can come down and look at just databases. There's lots of stuff in here, but databases. And we can see Microsoft SQL Server Ubuntu-based images. And then in here, we can see that you can go 2019 latest, 2022 latest, 2025 latest. You can just grab the latest if you want, or you can grab specific ones. So there's 9 pages of different ones in here that you could pull from. Now, if you want to pull through that many, I don't know. I don't know if there's one that you'd want to look for in 2017. There you go, 2017 latest Ubuntu. Maybe you want a 2017 version, cool. But otherwise, there's tons of different images out here you can look through, or if you're not looking for database, you can look for something else as well. But it's a really quick way to get going. Now, if you say, well, I'm not going to use SQL Server, I'm going to use MySQL. Not a problem. There's an image for that. You want to use MongoDB? Sure, you can do that. You want to use Cosmos DB? Not a problem. There's a local container for that as well. Containers make things really fast and easy on yourself. So I would encourage you to use this, because then when you're done, you can select the image and go, you know what? No, get rid of this. I'll get rid of that container. Now that's turned off, gone, blown away, and my machine doesn't have to use those resources. So that's the real benefit of containers, but also that's how you get started with SQL Server on Linux. Really simple to do, just need that one command. I show it to you before. There's that full command if you want to copy it down. Let's undo those 2 changes for 2025 instead of 2022. There you go. One more. Map your port properly. But that's it. So now you have that command will install SQL Server on your Linux machine in a container in a way that won't take up anything more than disk resources unless you are going to be using it. All right. Thanks for watching. And as always, I am Tim Corey.